Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News, broadcasting to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Israel strikes Hamas targets in Gaza after 2 rockets were indiscriminately launched towards Israel's central communities. Hamas political bureau chief Ismail Haniyeh acknowledges that Iran had paid his organization $70 million earmarked for battling Israel. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi threatens to kill former President Donald Trump and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo unless they are prosecuted for ordering the assassination of IRGC Quds Force Commander Qasem Soleimani. Tensions have escalated on Israel's southern front over the week when 2 rockets were launched indiscriminately from the Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip towards Israel's central communities. Thankfully, the 2 so-called statistical projectiles exploded off the coast of the Mediterranean Sea, reportedly causing no injuries or damage. Israeli residents of the central city of Tel Aviv, who witnessed the incoming rocket fire, provided a brief recount of the incident.
באנו לדור כי היה גשם, היה זה, ופתאום פיצוצים מעל הראש, ובים אש ענק עם העשן. חשבנו, היינו בטוחים שזה טילים מעזה.
בבוקר שבאנו פה 6:45, ישבנו פה מול הים, ראינו אונייה גדולה, 3 בומים ענקיים, 3 אחד אחר השני, ועשן שחור, וזהו. זה מה שהיה בבוקר. אחרי זה הגיעו פה משטרה, מכבי אש, כל מיני דברים.
Following the rocket fire, the Islamist Hamas organization relayed a message to Jerusalem via Egyptian mediation, claiming that the rainy weather conditions triggered the indiscriminate rocket fire. Nevertheless, following a consequent security situation assessment, the Israeli defense establishment asserted, per directives given by the political leadership, that the abhorrent rocket fire will be met with a response at a time and place of Israel's choosing. Subsequently, on Saturday night, the IDF spokesperson's unit announced that IDF fighter jets, helicopters, and tanks struck a rocket manufacturing site and military post belonging to the Hamas terror organization. The next morning, on Sunday, Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, in his opening remarks to the weekly cabinet meeting, emphasized that the Israeli attack was in retaliation for the indiscriminate rocket fire a day prior, while stressing further that Hamas's claims regarding errant launches in light of poor weather conditions was no longer a viable explanation, as was the case under the previous government.
חיל האוויר תקף הלילה סדרה של מטרות במתחם לייצור רקטות של חמאס בח'אן יונס. בנוסף, צה"ל תקף שורה של עמדות חמאס בגבול הרצועה. המתקפה הזאת היא בתגובה לירי הרקטות אתמול מרצועת עזה לחופי הים התיכון. אני רוצה להבהיר פה משהו. כל סיפורי הברקים והרעמים של חמאס שחוזרים על עצמם חורף אחר חורף לא רלוונטיים יותר. מי שמכוון טילים לעבר מדינת ישראל נושא באחריות.
In light of the escalation between the Islamist Hamas and Israel, Egyptian officials relayed messages to both Gaza and Jerusalem, urging both sides to cease hostilities and adhere to the Cairo-brokered cessation of hostilities arrangement that was reached following Operation Guardians of the Walls. And while a Hamas source confirmed to TV7 that the Islamist group is not interested in escalating the situation on the Gaza-Israel front, 2 senior Israeli officials re-emphasized that calm will be met with calm, and that Hamas bears full responsibility for all terror-related activities that emanate from the Gaza Strip. In other, yet related news, Hamas political bureau chief Ismail Haniyeh asserted that the Battle of the Sword of Jerusalem, which is the name Hamas gave Operation Guardians of the Walls, was merely a rehearsal for the liberation of Palestine in reference to the Islamist organization's charter, which pledges to raise the armies of Islam for the purpose of conquering all of the lands of Israel from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. It is interesting to note that according to its charter, which clearly identifies with the global Muslim Brotherhood, adopting the Islamist movement slogan, which states, quote, Allah is its goal, the Prophet is the model, the Quran its constitution, jihad its path, and death for the sake of Allah its most sublime belief. However, while the Muslim Brotherhood, a Sunni Muslim movement, abhors the Shiite Islamic Republic of Iran, Hamas has adopted the Ayatollah regime as a patron for the purpose of defeating the Jewish state. Hence, in an interview to the Qatari-owned Al Jazeera network, Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh praised Tehran for enabling his internationally recognized terror group in its battle for Jerusalem. While emphasizing that Hamas is not fighting a proxy war for Iran, Haniyeh acknowledged that the Ayatollah regime and Hamas are in full cooperation against their common Israeli enemy. The Hamas leader went on to reveal that Iran had paid his Palestinian group roughly $70 million to help develop its so-called defensive infrastructure and rocket development capabilities, which are solely earmarked for combating the Jewish state. While Iran is seemingly making every effort to bolster its proxies in the region, as part of its efforts to attain regional hegemony, Israel continues to work relentlessly to frustrate Tehran's aligned aspirations. Speaking last week ahead of the year's transition into 2022, Israeli Defense Minister Benny Gantz reiterated Jerusalem's resolve, all the while calling upon regional countries to proactively defend their citizens and sovereignty.
גם השנה פעלנו מול האיומים בחזיתות השונות שאת כולם מתדלקת איראן, שהיא האויבת הגדולה ביותר של עמי ותושבי המזרח התיכון. המשטר האיראני לא יכול לספק חינוך ומים לאזרחיו, אך ממשיך להשקיע סכומי עתק בפרויקט הגרעין ובשלוחים שלו. איראן מערערת את המשילות בסוריה, בלבנון, בתימן ובמדינות נוספות, ומבקשת להבעיר את האזור על מזבח האינטרסים של ראשיה. אני קורא למדינות האזור לעצור את הפגיעה של איראן בריבונותן ובתושביהן. ישראל לא תאפשר לאיראן להזרים נשק מפר איזון לשלוחיה ולאיים על אזרחיה. וצה"ל ימשיך לפעול בכל מקום, באוויר, ביבשה ובים, בכדי להבטיח את ביטחון מדינת ישראל.
The remarks by Jerusalem's top defense official were made ahead of a national mourning day on December 31st, during which the Ayatollah regime commemorated their assassinated IRGC Expeditionary Quds Force commander Qasem Soleimani, who was killed in a US drone strike on January 3rd, 2020. During a ceremony of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards, its aerospace force commander, who was responsible for the claimed retaliatory strike against US forces in Iraq, pledged to exert additional attacks against the United States.
اجازه آرامش و آسایش به اونها داده نخواهد شد و این ادامه داره. به هر حال اونها تصور نباید بکنن که این مقدار انتقام دیگه کفایت میکنه. نه، این ادامه پیدا خواهد کرد. محور مقاومت، دوستداران و خونخواهان حاج قاسم مسیر رو ادامه میدن و امریکایی‌ها اگر بخواهند کم هزینه بدن باید خودشون جمع کنن از منطقه برن.
Amir Ali Hajizadeh went on to claim that Iran's retaliatory response against the US men based in Iraq, which lacked a response, proved that the United States is on the decline.
پوشالی بودن امریکا رو همه فهمیدن. قدرت هالیوودی امریکا رو همه فهمیدن. ایران و ملت ایران و شعارهای انتقام مردم اون شب کاری رو کرد که آغاز فروپاشی رژیم تروریستی امریکا بود و این که حالا بعدش حوادثی رخ داد و خروج مفتزهانه از افغانستان و اتفاقاتی که در عراق و سوریه و جای دیگه افتاد، اینا آغازی بر پایان امریکاست.
At a separate ceremony organized by the Iranian government, President Ibrahim Raisi seized the opportunity to demand that former President Donald Trump and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo will be prosecuted for the targeting of Soleimani, naturally stopping short from acknowledging the countless operations which the slain general orchestrated against US troops and interests in the region. Regardless of the latter, President Raisi went on to assert that former President Donald Trump must be subjected to the Iranian Gesha law, which allows the victim to provoke his aggressor the same damage that he or she suffered.
If a just prosecution court is set up for Trump, Pompeo, and the other criminals when they are prosecuted for the shocking crime and they face the consequences of their horrible actions, then so be it. If not, do not doubt that I will tell every American official that the fist of revenge will extend from the sleeve of the Islamic Ummah.
There was no immediate response from the US State Department in response to TV7's request for comment. Thank you for joining us. As part of TV7 Israel's prayer initiative, I would like to encourage you today to join the team and me here in Jerusalem to lift up the United States in prayers for its salvation and peace, alongside prayers for our persecuted brothers and sisters worldwide, in addition to our ongoing prayers for the peace of Jerusalem and the salvation of Israel. I'm Yair Pinto, wishing you a Shavua Tov u'Mevorach, and we'll see you again tomorrow at the same time.